I'm here to talk with you today about how adaptive clothing might be a good option for you if you've found that getting dressed or undressed has become difficult for you or the person that you're caring for. We'll start by talking about what exactly is adaptive clothing. It's basically clothes that are modified to allow for easier dressing or undressing of a patient or a resident by a caregiver. And the great thing about these clothes is that they look and feel like regular clothes, but they're just easier to put on or take off. There are many benefits to adaptive clothing for both patients and caregivers, and if we look at the benefits for the patient, one of the things that they do is they minimize awkward and painful joint movements. Patients who have limited mobility because of conditions like stroke or shoulder surgery or other physically debilitating conditions may have a difficult time being able to raise their arms over their head or reach them back into sleeves, and the clothes that we're going to show you today don't require those kind of awkward and painful joint movements and may make it a little easier to put their clothes on and off. Another benefit of adaptive clothing is that it helps reduce emotional stress. And now there are a variety of reasons why dressing can be stressful for people. One may be that somebody becomes very frustrated because they used to know how to put a button through a buttonhole and now they just can't get their fingers to make it work. And so for people who are frustrated because they can't put their shoes on like they used to, or they can't button their shirts like they want to, or they can't put a shirt on over their head and reach their arms up through it, that can be really frustrating and cause a lot of stress for people. And so we're going to show you some options of different types of clothes that would help reduce that emotional stress. Now, dressing can also be stressful for people who don't like to be handled or moved or manipulated, and so the clothes that we're going to show you require a lot less movement and are a lot easier for caregivers to get on a patient without a whole lot of movement required by the patient. And lastly, the last benefit that we're going to talk about of adaptive clothing is that this can really help support a sense of well-being for your loved one or for yourself. Nobody wants to spend their time in institutional type clothes like a hospital gown. And the clothes that we're going to show you today look a lot more like regular clothes than institutional clothing. And then we're also going to show you ways that you can take your normal clothes and maybe have them modified to become adaptive clothing where you can still have your own sense of style and your own sense of fashion, but it's not quite as hard to get the clothes on as you do in the traditional sense. Now, as we look at the benefits of adaptive clothing for caregivers, the first one we're going to talk about is that it reduces physical strain associated with dressing a patient. A lot of times putting a patient's clothes on or taking their clothes off requires lifting, repositioning, or turning, and as you'll see, the clothes that we're going to show you today don't require as much manipulating, lifting, turning, and so it really reduces the risk of injury to the caregiver because it makes the clothes easier to put on and off because you don't have to move the person that you're caring for as much. And then, like we talked about at the beginning, we hear that dressing can be one of those things that takes way more time and causes a whole lot of stress for people who are caring for somebody with physical disabilities. And so these clothes might make it a little easier to put clothes on and take those clothes off than traditional or conventional clothes would. And so maybe that gives you a little bit of extra time in your day.